And we are once again live on the Icecast Live Season 3. Good afternoon. Well, it's not good afternoon, is it? It's good
evening, you fool.
It's
We're not
actually
doing
dark.
any American creators this week,
Well,
so
yes.
we can say good evening.
We can say good evening to everybody on the show.
We can.
But obviously, some of the people watching it will be good afternoon. For some of the people watching, it might even be good morning. You
or
do
even
not
happy
know.
Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday. You never know.
How are you, Mr. McMoney?
I am very good. Glad to be back on the third season. Good and proper.
Yes.
How are you?
I'm good, mate. I've started a new day job, which has been interesting. Lots of new challenges. And obviously, I have a Kickstarter on the go at the moment. It's Hedrick issue 2.
Yep.
And art by David Hitchcock, of course, written by Lawrence Allison. And it's really, really cool. The action really heats up in this issue. So I'm not going to do a big sell on it, but buy it, guys. It's brilliant.
You've mentioned it now. It's on Kickstarter. Hedrick number 2. There's all the buzzwords, the keywords. It doesn't take a genius to put that into Google, does it?
It does not. Get out there, guys. Check it
out. If a room full of monkeys, an infinite room full of monkeys can eventually write Shakespeare's play, I'm sure one human being on their own can check out Hedrick number 2 on Kickstarter. There you go. I've said it twice now.
Brilliant. Of course, they've got to work it out before the end of the 30 days.
And where are you in the campaign?
We're doing all right. We're very early on.
Right.
So we've only done a couple of days and we're approaching halfway towards the target.
Excellent.
So, yeah, I mean, based on, previous campaigns that we've done, we are heading for a successful campaign. So
that's good to know.
Very happy about that.
And how's the Dracula one going?
Dracula. Well, Dracula is being designed by Mr. Andy Blewett as we speak. And Lovely. It will be available very soon. We actually had a feature. I don't know if you saw, mate. There's a feature on Dracula in SFX.
That's pretty good, isn't it?
In the special as well, in the Halloween special. So that was
in
a
the
really
print
nice
medium. It's like wax cylinders for the 21st century.
Yes. Do you still get SFX on occasion?
I used to get it years ago when it first came out. I was really sort of enamored by it. But like a lot of people, I pick it up from time to time. But it helps that you've shared most of it on Facebook.
Yeah. I mean, I obviously ordered one because I want one, it's got us in it. But I do pick it up every night. If there's something on the cover and I think, I want to read about, I do occasionally pick it up. Because just for old time's sake.
It has a good deep dive, I think. That's what I enjoyed about SFX.
Definitely. Before we introduce our guest, just a couple of little comments from Ed Doyle. Hi, Shane and Ollie. Backed Hedrick. Love the first issue. Thank you, Ed. That's what we like to see. Christopher Cook, looking well, Shane and Ollie.
Looking well, Shane.
That makes
wow, just as you come all blurred on the screen.
Yeah, I've actually got a stinking cold. I'm covering it up well. I'm drinking. I've taken drugs and legal ones.
Yes, of course.
But I am actually quite poorly at the moment. But it's only 45 minutes. We can do it, can't we?
We can get there.
We can get there, definitely. So we do need to introduce our guest. So without any further ado, Sam, let's play that VT and let's get the show going, shall we, mate? Welcome back to the Icecast Live, and welcome Paul, and welcome Mike.
Hello. Hello. Great to be here. Thank you very much.
Oh, you're more than welcome. It's really.
I think these two have had a conflab saying how many DVDs have we got in the back? Who's got the most DVDs?
I think we don't leave our office ever. We're just we're locked in.
Are they all DVDs or are they books?
Come on. Blu-rays, and 4Ks.
Oh wow!
4,000 of them.
Whoa, that's impressive.
You win. I think I've got about 500, something like that. So You're well ahead on me there, mate. God, that's a lot. You must watch a lot of movies.
I do. A lot. A lot. Some of them, though, I've never even opened. I've had them for
Really?
years.
Yeah,
Wow.
that's the problem, isn't it? Going back to my
Too many.
teenage years, I got albums that I never even opened. Then it went to videos. Then it was DVDs. Now it's Blu-rays.
Oh, yeah.
And
Yeah.
even stuff I've downloaded digitally.
Really?
Never watched.
Still not watched it. Oh. I'm one that watches I've watched all of them multiple times. You know.
He's got 4,000, Shane. You got 500.
Yeah, well, but you know, I could probably get. You know, are there 4,000 good movies in the world? This is. The question.
Oh,
He didn't say they were good
they were
movies.
About
research. About 3 of them are good. Yeah. You've watched 3 of them about 40 times.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I totally get that one. But yeah, welcome, guys. It's really good to have you on the show. I spotted Rivals that you did a little preview a little while ago, and I spotted it, and I thought it looked very impressive. So when I saw that you guys were doing, very, and when I saw that you were doing a Zoop campaign, I thought, let's get the guys on the show. Let's talk a little bit about it and find out how it came about, and because you guys you're a new publishing company, aren't you, Paul? You're the man behind it, I presume.
No, the publishing company, the whole comic thing is our joint venture. Gerrard and Mike is obsessed with comics. Has been forever. You know, for me, it's more the artwork. Yeah, that drives me.
Mm.
So we forged this together. Not going too deep too soon, but we forged it together because of Rivals and what that presented to clients. So we got an option agreement for a TV show off the back of starting Rivals, and through that process, we formed the company to do that for other people.
Gotcha. So
I suppose the obvious question is, I mean, obviously without giving too much away about the sort of, the mirrors and magics behind the scene, at what point were you able to present it to a TV company? Production, did you have just a script? Was it just a bit of artwork? How fully formed was it?
We kind of planned. The big plan was to do the first series of the comics, right, and get that out there to a publisher, and then present and pitch to the studio. But we were working with certain producers that were asking what we were doing, and we showed them where we were up to. And what we'd had was I'd create like 100-page art bible of Rivals anyway. I'd been creating this world for 4 years, so we had the art bible of the world, all the artwork, designs, the whole lot. And we had the first pilot script, and Mike had already delved into it as a TV show and as a story before we even started the comic. And we showed at that and said, look, it's not ready yet. We want to do the comic first, but they optioned it straight away. So then we were like, in a bit of a panic because we've got to get the comic done. And then 7 months later, we've got the comic done.
So you were on a sort of a time scale from day one then, were you? A bit of pressure?
I think, well, when you option a TV show, they have a year. So basically how it works is a studio or a producer will give you what's called an option agreement, which means they have a year to get the show off the ground. If they don't, then the rights come back to us and we can then option it to somebody else. So there is that. I suppose there is that pressure. We wanted to get the comic out just in case the TV show starts, but also, option agreements, TV stuff, it's so fickle. It could just disappear at any second. You can't rely on that. What we can rely on is both of us getting our head down and getting the comic done.
Yeah,
so that is kind of like the priority, I would say, over that. So something we can control ourselves.
And the other great thing, sorry, go on, Ollie.
Go on, Shane. You go on.
I was just saying the other great thing about it. The other great thing about it is that it is a great proof of concept, a comic, as well as a great piece of entertainment in its own right. Yeah. It does give you that, So if the option did slip, it's still a great property that you can look to, to option again or to go into other media.
Well, that's the way we approach it. We approach these things as we do it for Final Impact. Is we're making comics because we love comics, but we develop them like a production designer would do it for a film or a TV or whatever. It doesn't matter. No matter what the end result is, we develop it the same way. So we do this massive world building, Bible first, then you get your comic. And so we'll have that no matter what happens.
I love that approach
go on
as
to be
well.
a game or anything.
Because the way that can work as well which is great, I think, is that because you're building it from the ground up, whatever media you're working in, it's going to be faithful to that original vision. It's not going to be an adaptation as such. It's going to be an extension of something that you've already built. So it's going to be a lot more authentic, isn't it?
The comic is, I think, is far more extreme than what TV can be. You know, because a comic you do whatever you want. You know, that's why I think Mike and I are such a good team, because I'm all artwork and visuals, and Mike's a phenomenal writer and a film director. And those two kind of like partnerships just meld really well for what we want to do.
So let's have a look at some of the artwork then. Sam, are you able to share some with us? I can see him frowning.
Well, I was going to say some of the artwork is very cinematic in its concept, isn't it? It's very much post-designed aesthetics to it.
Here we go. Oh, this is
that
nice.
Looks like a little bit of the backup strip.
Yeah, that's the one shot.
Right. So, do you want to talk us through it a little bit then, Mike, as to what this story's about that we're looking at now?
Yeah, well, he's gone back to the beginning now. The whole idea of it is, you know, we planned out the whole of the TV series to last 9 to 10 episodes. And when we come to delve into the comic, we decided to divide each episode 3 times. So a third of the pilot episode equals 1 comic.
Gotcha.
And what we also decided to do as well is steer away from the main story arc and introduce the readers to more characters, more worlds, more stories, backgrounds. So that's why we've also done Tales of the 7 Cities as well for each issue. Each issue will have a different standalone story to do with a character or a place or a creature within that world.
That's a good idea. So you're world building as you go without having to do lots of exposition in the main story.
Yeah, exactly.
I really like that.
I mean, I don't think it's giving too much away to actually say that, you know, talking about how you build this world, the main character, the guy we see, Sago on the front cover, he's not immediately introduced to the story, is he? You've got quite a lot of build-up until he's actually introduced.
Yeah. In fact, he's kind of like a co-lead. There's another character that will appear in episode 2 that takes the lead as well. The story will evolve and come back to Sago because it's ultimately his journey. But yeah, there is a female lead as well that comes into issue 2.
Right, and this world that this story's set in, what sort of world is it? Is it our world in the past, our world in the future?
It's
completely made up.
Its own planet called Planet Alta.
Right.
It's similar to maybe like a slightly futuristic Mad Max, I would say, in terms of technology. That's been sent back.
And not back into the Dark Ages, hasn't it? Because of these ghost storms.
Yeah. So you imagine a world with like almost overlays of Akira with biomechanical weapons and all this kind of stuff. And then it gets sent back. So all these biomechanical weapons don't work. But all these warring factions are still brutal and they're still at war, you know, still run by cult leaders. But it almost has this kind of Conan medieval vibe to it as well.
Definitely. It's quite feudal, isn't it, in its design, I think.
Yeah. And through the heart of it is martial arts, through like the main vein of it. So every clan will have its own style of martial arts. So that's why we were so thrilled that Gary came on board to be Sago. You know.
Yeah, for those who aren't familiar with Gary, what's his background? He's an actor.
Gary Daniels was and is a big action film star. He started like in the early 80s and worked with all the big Hollywood stars, and he's had films like Blood Moon and Fist of the North Star. Later he was in like Expendables, things like that. And he's a phenomenal martial artist. So he's, for me, because I grew up watching his films, he's a bit of an icon. So to have him play Sago is just phenomenal. And he will be playing Sago Asta in the TV show as well.
Oh, that's cool. That's really cool. Yeah.
So was he there from quite early? I mean, obviously you said 4 years to build the world. So when you were ready to pitch it to TV producers, was he on board before that, or did he become naturally involved because of the martial arts element, which I think is a unique selling point to this particular world? Like you say, it has got elements of Mad Max, it's got elements of Dune, but neither of those have got martial arts at its core.
Yeah. Martial arts is huge in this thing, and Gary was quite it's quite helpful as well, because his martial arts is called the way of the Iron Fist, and when he trains, he hits bags full of cast iron balls, and he hits metal rods with his fist, and so his bones are like structured like Wolverine, So, but he's an extremely spiritual guy as well, like one of the nicest guys you'll ever meet, and his martial arts are very spiritual. So that's gone into Saga Astar,
And it's good to have that somebody advising you like that, because that's actually really hard to express martial arts in comics. A lot of artists will say, it's like, it's really hard to get it right because, realistic fighting can often look a little bit stilted and slow on the comic page. So how do you exaggerate it but keep it genuine? That's probably a little bit of a challenge.
He was on board at the start of the comic, and when we pitched it, if I remember right, when we pitched it to the studio, the artwork was done with him already in it.
That's cool. And so you've decided to go with Zoop on this project.
For this is like a fan edition, limited to only 500 copies.
Right.
Because later on, when we get all 6 issues done, we'll either self-publish or we'll approach a publisher to get it all done and released. But for now, we just wanted to keep the momentum going and get it out there to the fans that have already bought the prequel. So it's like a little nod to them to say thanks for supporting us all these years and keeping us going. Because a lot of the fans that have supported on this have bought my books and such in the past. Right.
And so a little bit more about you then, Paul. What's your background before you got into this project? What sort of stuff did you work on?
I design stuff for movies, concept art. So I worked on like Indiana Jones 5 and Hellboy, and the last few were like Evil Dead. I took on a full-time job last month. I work on Call of Duty, same thing, character design. But it wasn't until I did Hellraiser Origins about 10 years ago, I think so. Yeah. And then after that, it was about 10 years ago. After that, I met Mike through working with people, and we started talking about making a movie together. And we've been working together ever since. We made a movie together. What was that? 4-5 years for The Stranger.
When did we shoot it? 2019. It was.
God, was it? Yeah.
It soon goes.
So we shot a film together, and we constantly working together ever since. And after that, Mike went on to do something else, and I went on to start Rivals. Then we came back together again.
It's great, isn't it, when you meet someone you can work with like that, you just click with, and you've got the same sensibilities, the same ambitions. It's because a lot of partnerships is like the same DVD collection. Yeah.
I'm intrigued to know, Paul, who gets to design Indiana Jones's Zimmer frame on the new film.
That was Paul.
Well, that was me. Yeah. Well, I did the lips of the turtle, so I'm guilty of that as well.
Really?
Yeah, I put the lips of the cheeks, and then they went for it. Yeah. So
you're a brave man. I admire your bravery.
And Mike, do you have a love of martial arts as well? Or is it mainly martial arts in film?
No. I had martial arts background in mixed martial arts. I had the most visited UK MMA website called the Fight Lounge. I managed fighters. I was at the UFC all the time, working, with the Bellator and UFC there. But I loved it. Obviously, I love martial arts, but film was always my first love. I was a teenage filmmaker in magazines and things like that. And then I decided to take a year out to go and get a normal 9-to-5 job. And I thought I'll go back the next year. And before I knew it, another year went by, another new year, and it ended up being 15 years in the end. And then I decided to.
Do you still keep your oar in a bit then?
Do you still what? Sorry.
Do you still keep your oar in a bit, at least training and keeping yourself active in the sea?
No, I'm so out of shape. Unhealthy, it's unbelievable. I'm out of breath walking the stairs. I keep watching. I'll watch it. I'll keep up to date with what's going on, but I'm nowhere near as involved as what I once was.
So do we get a cameo Paddy the Baddy anytime soon? Because even my kids at school have heard of him.
My website gave Paddy Pimblett his very first interview when he was, I think he was 16 at the time. So, so he was a kid just out of school, and now he's a superstar. So great,
incredible. And hopefully, you guys will be following into the superstar steps soon with this book. It's an incredible book, and also the
artwork is very slick, isn't it? I mean,
I was just going to bring that up, because you've got Dave Kendall, haven't you, on the art?
No, Dave Kendall was only the prequel. This is a guy called Richard Therese, who is in. Oh man, he takes a long time, but he's insanely detailed. And then we have Matt Sulphur doing the colours, who did the Dracula comic.
Yeah, Matt's brilliant, isn't he? Yeah. He can turn his hand to absolutely anything. He really can. Yeah,
but Richard's got I think he's got mental issues. The amount of detail he puts in. There's a bar scene, right? And the bar scene in my head, I'm thinking it's a medieval, Mad Max type bar. There may be about 10, 20 people. We got the artwork back. I was thinking, why has this took 2 weeks to do a bar scene? Got it back this page. There's about 100 people in the bar. Incredible. Every single person's got a different face, different mannerism, different costume. That's why it took 2 weeks to do one scene.
Well, that's fair enough, isn't it? When you when you get
speeds up. There's always those scenes set against the backdrop of sand, isn't there, where you can speed up a little bit.
Desert shots. Yeah,
issue 2, sand. No, I think you just got to run with it. If somebody's so passionate like that, you just let them do it and let them roll with it.
Let them play to their strengths. If you've got an artist who wants to do that, you've got to let them. If you've got someone like that, you've got to take advantage of it, haven't you?
Yeah, that's it. That's why, and for the one shots, what I love about the one shots, we'll do a lot of them, is that they're kind of our wild cards, where you get a lot of unknown artists who've never worked in the comic industry before, ever, colorists and pencilers, and give them a chance. Just give them that one shot to have a go.
Oh, that's brilliant. I really admire any publisher that does that, because there's so many talented artists out there that have not had a chance to really shine. And it's part of what we do as well at Scratch Comics. We try and give new artists the chance to just get out there and to find an audience, because it's so hard now. I mean, people say, it's true that yes, the internet is here and all that, but it's so hard now. I mean, we were talking about offline before. It's not easy, is it, to break through that algorithm?
We're a publisher, but we've only dealt with internal studios. Our comics haven't been published. We only deal with like games companies or film companies who want to show their producers the comic, so it doesn't go outside that realm. So when it comes to try and get market rivals, we find it almost impossible. You release images on social media and it just goes nowhere. It's so hard starting from zero. So what you guys do is so important, to help us out and help the indie comic market out, really.
Well, that's what it's all about. I mean, there's shows like this, but there's other shows as well that do the same thing, and they are important, because the indie market is growing, but it's been stifled by this sort of lack of exposure, and I don't know about you, Ollie, but I think that the mainstream market is sort of closing in a little bit, becoming
they're taking over, aren't they? The mainstream market, the big guys are using Kickstarter as well.
They are indeed.
100 of the guys have been indie makers, and they're not.
We've seen a lot of that.
I mean, we've certainly discussed the pros and cons of that in the past. I think one of the pros for Kickstarters, when a big name artist or writer gets involved, is it brings people to Kickstarter who may therefore stick around and find the odd sort of gem like Rivals and back that. I think also even these big name artists, I've seen them, don't sell that many units, but what they can do on Kickstarter, what they can do on Zoom, is give something more value for money, add that extra bit of pizzazz that I'm sure when we come to talk about your Zoop campaign, we can talk all about the extra add-ons. I think does. I know the Kickstarters and Zoops I've backed, not many, but it does give you a thrill when it comes through the box of your door. Yeah. You open it up, and you've got all these extra things falling out that you just don't get when you just go into a comic shop and buying it off the shelf.
That's it. I love behind the scenes stuff, and that's why on the Zoop you can get like a 36-page comic of just the behind the scenes sketches for like $15. You know,
that's really cool. That's really cool. Ollie, are you able to share that campaign?
For some reason, I'm not being allowed to share on this.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So I don't know if Sam can find it. I can always put the link very quickly into the
chat. Yeah, because it would be good to have a look at it.
Because it is good to see. I mean, I do like the sort of the layout of Zoop, to be honest. And like you were saying, Shane, you've had both pros and cons. So what are the pros and cons, Paul, Mike, that you're maybe finding in your campaign, or are they all pros at the moment?
For me, the pros are they're introducing us to people like yourself, who we by ourselves we didn't know about that kind of community. Yeah. Right. The cons are, I think it works it amplifies your own reach, but in our case we don't have one, so it's not been it's not been easy. One of the pros as well is, like you said, the layout is much better. It's compared to Kickstarter, and they will do that for you. They will sort out all the layout and the visuals for you, which I really like. Because running a Kickstarter, running anything, if you're doing it yourself, it's a full-time job, and it's relentless. So
it is a lot of work.
It was a huge weight off my mind, really.
Oh, I've got the. It's coming up now, by the looks of it.
There we go.
So that's one of the variant covers. So the main cover is done by Greg Staples, which we've been fans of since we were a kid.
Wow, Greg's a great artist. Nice. Yeah, fantastic. These are nice. This is really nicely presented as well. You got your So this is the just the book on its own for $10. Yeah.
Yeah.
And that's another variant. That's really nice as well. Yeah. And it's reasonably priced. It's. Because, I mean, this is the other thing, isn't it, that I'm sure you're aware of, most people are aware of, is that pricing on crowdfunders is very different to pricing on the direct market. I mean, in the direct market, you can't really charge more than $6 for a comic, Yeah. Whereas on crowdfunding, it's pretty regular that you will be charging, between $15 and $20 for a comic. And that's people accept that because they know that the creators have put their heart and soul into it. It's an artisan product. It's something that, that's going to be limited. It's not mass produced. Yeah, it's a very low print run. Like you guys are only doing say 500 of these.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
The likes of the add-ons won't be printed again. They may be packaged maybe year, 2 years down the line in a big graphic novel. Like most companies do. But this is all purely for the fans now. For the Zoop campaign.
There's something I like about Zoop as well, and I don't know if you guys appreciate it the same way, but is the way that it's more like a shop. So everything can be ordered from the page. Everything is visible, and it's a lot easier for people who aren't used to crowdfunding. If they're just coming into it for the first time because they want to buy your stuff, it's a lot easier for them to sort of understand Zoop, I find. Whereas on Kickstarter, one of the problems I've had is that people will say, well, that thing's not visible because it's an add-on. You can't show the add-ons, on the screen.
You get confusing sometimes. Think, well, if I buy a comic, I want to buy that, and I don't want to buy this. But here you can buy, the original artwork, and you don't have to buy much else. It's just like add to basket.
Yeah, you just choose what you want. It's a lot more flexible, isn't it?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's it.
And I do understand. I mean, we're going to get the Zoop guys on the show in the near future, but I do understand they are going to be bringing in at some point a self-build part of the platform as well, so that they, because at the moment it is one of the things I found was it was hard not having the data at hand.
That is a good point. Yeah, when we did the pre-launch thing, we said to them, look, if we get, like, say, 200 people clicking, then we'll go ahead with it. but we didn't know if there's 200 or 2 people. I had to constantly email them and ask them, what the numbers like.
Yeah, it's tricky, isn't it? Not having that constant like awareness of what's going on.
So that's the page up there. That's the original artwork from the prequel, which you can get as a PDF, and that's the one that Dave Kendall worked on. So he's like this big famous 2000 AD artist, which you guys know. So you can get his artwork.
Dave's art is stunning, to be honest. And there's a trailer as well. But I don't know if we'll be able to play that through here.
Don't tend to be able to play the sound for some reason.
Yeah. But we'll have to tell people to get onto the Zoop and check this out.
We can hear it.
Yeah, we're going. That's nice. That's great coloring. He's definitely the villain, isn't he?
Well, we'll see.
He looks illegal.
That's amazing artwork, Paul. Given your background in concept art, are you a hard taskmaster? Mike, are you an even harder taskmaster when it comes to the art and the particular look? Because like you said, you've got a 4-year baby here. You've got it all in your head. You know what it looks like. How much back and forth is there between you two, the artist, and just getting those final tweaks done?
Do you want me to go?
Yeah, you go.
When it comes to the art and the character design, I always say it, and I'll say it when he's not even in front of me or on a call with me. Paul is the best in the world at what he does. So when it comes to character design and art, I leave it all to him. I know that the right decisions will be made. I don't need to micromanage anything. Even characters that I've created myself in the stories, I know that Paul will take it to another level. And with the story, I like to think that Paul, most of the time, 99.9% of the time, agrees with what I want to go in and what direction I want to take something in. And so that's why it works. I can rely on him because I know he's going to do a phenomenal job, and hopefully he can rely on me as well.
Oh, absolutely. I love creating characters, right? And I love creating iconic moments that usually don't make any sense. But that's not a story. You know what I mean? I like concepts, I like ideas, I like characters that have story that have melded into the visuals already. But as far as narrative goes, as far as like the bigger picture story, that's an entirely new world. That's all Mike.
And I think that, I don't know if you guys agree, but I think a lot of modern movies underestimate the value of a good writer and a good narrative, because you find that a lot of them seem to be like these really cool scenes that are just strung together. So, that'll go after that one and that'll go after that one with no real sort of narrative happening. I don't know if you guys have observed that in modern movies recently.
A lot of the time, and it's funny because obviously, filmmakers as well. We've got a horror film out in America now. It just came out last month. But we find ourselves with a lot of constraints and restraints when we're making films because of how far we can stretch a budget. So our horror film, whilst we had incredible ideas, we just couldn't manage to put it up on the screen because we couldn't afford to. But with comics, we can do whatever we want. So if we want to have a huge double-page splash of 100 people chopping each other's heads off and arms off. It cost us the price of the letterer, the inker, and the colorist. Whereas if we wanted to do it on film, that's $100 million budget.
As you're setting the scene in there, and of course the history of the world now, it gets knocked back technologically wise. I mean, I imagine that would be a multi-million-pound scene on its own, the first 2 or 3 pages. Before you've got into the costume design.
Yeah, that's
exactly.
It. Yeah.
Exactly.
But in the pilot script, we have wrote around that geniusly.
Right.
Mike has come up with something that kind of shows that without actually showing the entire thing. But who knows? We're in talks with people that may well get those figures together. We don't know. We'll see. Yeah.
Well, we really hope so. The prospect is exciting. I mean, I'm a fan of all the things this is influenced by. Like I love Mad Max.
Yeah. What was the one that came up before? What was the one we thought of before? I can't remember. It was something that meets Akira, wasn't it?
Mad Max meets Akira, was it?
Conan meets Akira.
Conan meets Akira. That's it. That is a great tagline.
Meets the raid. Yeah, it's like at the heart of it, it's a huge martial arts comic TV show.
It's certainly the main character reminded me of Gurney Halleck from Dune a bit as well. He's that classic mentor character, but a mentor character who can kick ass.
Yeah,
that's it.
Absolutely. He's like the way that a bit of backstory about him. He was a city guard who built himself up to become the head city guard for Jarn City, which is where most of this story takes place, one of the 7 cities on the world. And then because he was so good at that, he became the leader, Sword Dornhath's right-hand man. His fight training, he trains his son and daughter to be the heir to the throne so they can be warriors as well. But something happens in the story and Sword Dornhath has to call upon him again to do his duty for the city, to bring him out of retirement, so to speak. So, yeah.
The call to action.
It's a nice generational comic as well, I think. A lot of the characters we've seen brief snippets of, I think it's a comic that can appeal to a number of readers. Was that always in the back of your mind, or is that something that just grew out of the concept from the word go?
Well, we always said straight away we wanted to make a quality product for a wide audience. Now we know that there's a lot of fans of Game of Thrones and that lot now have a void, and we wanted to try and fill that void by having all this different aspects. You've got drama, you've got teen drama in there, you've got martial arts, you've got action, you've got romance, you've got people trying to take over thrones and that lot. So we wanted to make sure that everyone could pick it up, and some will like all aspects of it and some will like certain aspects of it, but as long as
for a lot of the main characters, we wanted to be quite older characters and more mature characters, because what I was tired of seeing, when people like Netflix or Amazon release these big massive world building TV shows and they have these warriors and these experienced warriors or whatever, and they're in the teens or they're in the early 20s, and it just takes me out of it completely. And I just didn't want that for the comic or for the show, really.
A good example of that is Galadriel in the new. I think she's only about 500 years old.
Well, I'm amazed how unself-aware she is for what is she, 1,000 years old or something, and she still can't control her emotions. I mean, oh my God, what's the matter with her?
Well, have you ever seen a show called Warrior yet? The one that was based on the Bruce Lee story.
Oh yeah,
that's I've not seen that. No,
I liked a lot. With characters who are almost in their mid-30s or mid-40s, and they're all martial artists, and they're all it's really, really brutal. That's what I kind of inspired by a lot, was that TV show. And it got canned after season 2, but apparently it is coming back on another network.
Oh, right.
Season 3 is coming. Yeah.
There's enough networks out there nowadays to save something like that, isn't there?
Oh, definitely. It's quality. Yeah. I mean, I do like to see different age groups represented in in stories, because like you say, a lot of the time in mainstream media it is all, if you're an older character, they just fall into tropes. He's like the wise mentor or just the butt of the joke, but older characters have a lot more to offer, I think. And
maybe we're just relating to the older characters nowadays, Shane, because we are those older characters.
Definitely, without a doubt. I'm unashamed.
The irony is, if you look up Gary Daniels now, he's like, I think early 50s. He looks like he's in his 20s. He looks phenomenal.
Such good shape.
He does, because I looked him up just before he came on, and he does. I thought, what?
And exactly. A lot of these action stars from that period, sometimes they don't age as well because they stopped making the movies because they dipped in the mid-90s, didn't they? And kind of that genre disappeared.
Yeah.
And they didn't keep on working. But Gary's just honestly, he must train like crazy. He looks great.
And, an inspiration.
And is there thoughts of maybe touring this once the 500 limited editions have gone, of touring this on the road at comic conventions and getting the word out that way?
We talk about that in great detail in that, we saw how social media wasn't working for us, and we can't connect with it. I'm not a big fan of using it that way. So we decided the best way to do it is we've got to put a face to this comic, and we've got to go to Comic Cons. I love to go. I always go to Comic Cons anyway, and the ones here in Scarborough and everything else. So the plan is to go as many Comic Cons as we can. I don't know what you guys feel, but I've been told some advice that the really small ones, they don't embrace comics anymore.
There's a mixture. There's a mixture. I mean, obviously, I've been in Comic Cons I started organising Comic Cons in 2006, and I've just recently retired from that. But I have been organising cons for many years, and there are a mixture out there. There's the little ones that are just about family entertainment, which
that's what I was told.
TV and all that sort of stuff, and they're not really anything to do with comics. They just use the word Comic-Con to get people on board. But there are some genuine comic conventions out there where you will find people who want to buy comics, like Thought Bubble, like the Lakes. And I'm off to one in Nottingham at the end of this month, which I've heard is my first time there, but I've heard it's a really good, proper comic convention. They are in the minority, but they are the ones where you will sell comics. And I will say, even though they are evil and the enemy, MCM do have a really good comic section for independent publishers. And they're not really evil, I'm just joking. And they are. But they have a great section, and you get a lot of people in there. You're talking, I think they have around 100,000 people through the door or something like that. And they're not all into comics. There's only probably 10% of them, 5% of them are into comics. But 5% of 100,000 people is still a lot of people. And they will come and buy your comics. You talk to any publisher who exhibits there, and at Thought Bubble as well, you will sell your comics.
I think I should be at Thought Bubble. If they allow my dog to come, then I'm going to go.
Well, I don't know about that.
Pretend you're blind, Paul, and you'll be all right. Do you know what? I don't know. Because Thought Bubble, when it says his busiest, I imagine isn't the best place for a dog anyway. So I can't remember whether it was dog friendly or not. But I think
the organizer reached out. He reached out to me and I said, "Look, I'll go, but the Faisal who's just sat there, you can just sit behind the desk or something. Yeah, he's got to come with me."
It's definitely worth going to check it out because I think, particularly after COVID, there is a thirst for new content, new comics. And I know the indie creators as well as the big creators I've spoken to all do very well, even though, and because it's a Comic Con, even though there's hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of comics, that everyone there is all about the comics. It's not about... And at London MCM, I've heard, is a very good one as well. I know we've got just the one in Birmingham now when there used to be two. So I suspect that will be good because they've always done very well, like Shane said, on the Comic Village front, because particularly in Birmingham and Manchester, they don't have the big comic book names like they have in that there London. So I think it benefits the whole indie scene.
Yeah. And like Ollie says, the places like Thought Bubble, everyone's there for comics. So you will find new audiences. You'll find people who maybe not discovered you before. And it really does help you to build your audience going to those major cons.
So anybody else there who wants to kind of I'll go there and talk about all kinds of stuff. I don't mind. I'll just babble on.
I mean, any other shows you can think of, Ollie? Would you recommend?
I mean, like you said, you retired. Joel had to take his Bristol show off.
Well, there's Jeff's show.
There would have been Jeff's show, wouldn't there? Yeah, but that'll be back on again next year.
Yeah, that's in Bedford, and that's the Northamptonshire International Comic Expo, and that's all about comics.
I'd certainly aim. What I like about Thought Bubble is it's the last show of the year, and I think subconsciously people know that. So I think people are more willing to spend because they're not going to go to another show again until the springtime. It's also that time of the year where you might get a comic for your mate. My mate will like this kind of comic. My partner might like this kind of comic. It's the one I spend the most money at, I must admit. Because after the first day or two, maybe it's the beer kicking in, there's that giddiness about it all. And you end up just getting, I'll have that, I'll have that, I'll have that. And then at the end of it, you go, shit, how am I going to get all of this home?
And Harrogate's a nice town as well.
Yeah.
So that's another reason
it's
to go.
It's a lovely town. Good couple of boozers as well.
Ollie navigates the country via pubs.
Yeah, that's because I am showing off the creators which pubs to go to.
So we're coming towards the end of the show now, guys. But I do want to sort of re-emphasize to people how they can get this book. So obviously it's available on Zoop.
Well, only for the next 30 hours.
Well, so get on there, guys, and pledge for this book.
Marketing, we left it all to the last minute.
Well, I'll tell you what else I've got to ask, because we do this every time we get chatting. The one thing we haven't actually asked is, what's it all about? What is the story? We've talked about the world itself. We talked about its medieval, futuristic, sci-fi setting where technology is kaput. But what's the actual saga that you want to tell about without giving too much away?
Do you want me to go?
Go on, Mike.
Everyone for Mike.
Right, so I'll have to go a little bit further back. So, yeah, it's set on the planet Altar. There's 7 distinct cities run by 7 different clans. Throughout the history, they've all been at war. And as we mentioned before, while they were more technically advanced than ourselves, they've been set back due to the arrival of these storms that has destroyed technology and sent them back to a world of swords and fists and kicking and headbutting and martial arts. Whilst the cities have been kind of peaceful for the last couple of decades, there's an underlining hostility arriving, and the first issue starts to show that, where people are getting into the cities and starting to plan a big attack. Now, Sargo is, like I said, a retired city guard and now head trainer to the heirs of the throne, but he's called back into action to try and prevent a big war from happening, and he has to leave the city with an unlikely helping hand, shall we say.
So there's a big epic story going on here, but it sounds as though, as well as that, there's quite a human story.
Yeah, you'll get Sargo and this other character heading into the wasteland and becoming their adventures as they try and unfold what the hell's going on worldwide. And then you have the heads of all these different clans. It's about the rivals really, and all of them at each other's throat and why and how.
Yeah, and there's lots of twists and there's lots of twists and turns in it as well throughout every issue. So just when you think it's going in one direction, we pull the rug out from underneath your feet and we send you on another way.
And how many issues are planned for the series in total?
For this first story arc, about 30.
Wow!
Whoa.
Oh my god! It's an epic.
I thought you were going to say 5 or 6.
Yeah, that is, and you've got that planned out.
Does your artist know this?
Oh my god!
Well,
I might not live to the end of it.
The first graphic novel is like 6 issues.
Yeah.
You know? So that's what we focus on at first. Then we'll get that done. But yeah, the rest is already planned. As it, all the artwork's planned.
Wow.
Brilliant.
I totally admire
obsessed.
your ambition with that. I mean, the thing is, a lot of the time, I would say, when people come to me and they say, "Oh, I've got this 30-issue epic planned," most of the time, I would say to them, "Don't do that." But talking to you guys tonight, I can see that you are serious and that you have planned it out. And you know,
the theory is I don't think you can develop the modern day world without understanding the past and understanding the future of that world as well. You know what I mean? You can't write about a character now not knowing how he would evolve in like 5, 6, 7, 8 issues because the stories might overlap. You know what I mean? So we had to know everything before we could really get stuck into the story.
Yeah, like I like to think. Did you watch the TV show Lost?
Yeah.
Yes. It's like they made it up as they went along. They didn't know what it started so good, but then it was like, oh, how are we going to end this? What are we going to do?
Yeah.
So what me and Paul decided to do is make sure that we know the beginning, the middle, and the end from the very start. Brilliant. So then we know what direction it's going in.
That's fantastic. And that is a great selling point because a lot of people watching the show will say, now I will get it. Because they will think that we are going to get a complete story here. They're not just hanging us on just to sell books. We are going to get a complete story, an epic story, and I think that people can see that you're going to finish what you start.
Yeah.
In your mind, then, given that the first part of the story is 30 issues, I dread to ask this question. I think you know what's coming. How big is it? Cerebus 300 issues big, or is it slightly less than that?
Well, it's because we've built and created so many characters with backstories and that lot. It can go on for as long as possible. It could go on.
Graphic novel 4 could be all about the Ironheads and nothing to do with Saigo at that time. It could go on, but Sword Mabo, which is head of the Ironheads, which isn't even mentioned in the first 6 comics anyway. He's kind of hinted at, so you could do stories all about him.
Well, it's great to have a big universe like that to dip into. I mean, it's one of the things I love about the Mike Mignola universe, the Hellboy universe, is that it's got so much to it. I mean, obviously, it probably wasn't that big when he first started. He probably didn't have all that mapped out. I'm sure he didn't, but the structure was there.
Yeah, I love Star Wars. I love how they made Star Wars.
That had a history, didn't it?
Everything.
Although with the amount of walking involved in Andor, they may as well call it Meandor. It's just walking every single episode.
Maybe we'll have an episode on the TV show. We'll save the money in episode 4. We'll not spend any money, just have him walking.
Have him walking across the desert. There you go, a whole episode. Yeah.
And a fly walking and a fly butting around.
Getting robbed by some Jawa-like creatures or something. Well, guys, we are at the end of the show, but I would like to say thank you so much for coming on and talking to us.
Thank you for having us.
You're welcome. It's been really good to see what you've created here, and would just like to say all the best with it, with the campaign.
It looks like
with all 30 issues.
Hope you buy all 30.
Yeah, we hope you get the chance. We hope it happens, and I'm really excited to see how it develops.
Hope you get a chance to leave our rooms at some point.
Yeah,
our offices.
You've
got plenty of DVD entertainment anyway. Haven't you?
I'm not going anywhere. It'd take me 12. If I watched one a day, it'd take me 12 years. So.
Well, hopefully, when we get to issue 30, we'll have you back on and we'll have a retrospective and see how things were, eh?
Absolutely.
Thanks a lot, guys. We'll see you next time.
Thank you, James.
Thank you. Cheers, guys.
Thanks a lot. Roll us out, Sam.
Bye-bye.
So.